It's Saturday morning. It's 9 o'clock. It's time for the Monster Magic Saturday Show. Let's do this.
Wake up, it's a beautiful morning. Feel the sun shining for your eyes.
Woohoo! Good morning, everybody. I hope you're almost awake with a cup of coffee and a croissant or some toast and Marmite, whatever tickles your fancy. And thank you very much for joining me once again for the Monster Magic Saturday Show, where I am reviewing, first up, Declassified by Chris Rawlins, or Christopher Rawlins, if you will. This is his latest effect. If you don't know Chris, he is one of the UK's top mentalism performers, and he's released some really, really great stuff before this, actually dabbling more in close-up mentalism with predictable and memory aid recently. This is Declassified, and it is his take on a drawing duplication. The idea is that you introduce this document to your participant and you explain that it is Uri Geller's declassified file from when he was tested by the CIA about his paranormal perception. And during that, they instigated some tests with Uri being in an isolated room and doing drawing duplications. And Uri was able to match the CIA agents' drawings pretty accurately, actually convincing them that he did actually have some paranormal ability. You suggest to your participant that you can try and recreate that test and see if you can match Uri Geller's achievements. While looking away and shielded by the document folder, your participant looks through the document for a picture. He then visualizes that picture, which you then draw a exact duplicate of. What Chris has done with Declassified is taken the classic drawing duplication that lots of mentalists do, but it's often quite trite, it's often full of illogical process, and made it into something engaging, performance driven, and also very logical. This document that you've got here is actually a genuine declassified document from the CIA from when they did do tests on Uri Geller's paranormal perception. It's full of some great interesting quotes, and this document is really what makes Declassified special. It is a brilliant hook, as well as justifying everything and being the method. If you mention Uri Geller to anybody, any layperson, they are fascinated. A lot of people just know him for his spoons, and they're wondering whether that's a trick or whether he can really do it with the mind. Other people are aware of, from his television appearances, of all of the other things that he's done. And certainly when I was growing up throughout the 80s and so on, he was on TV a lot, and I was absolutely fascinated by him. And the fact that the CIA, again, another great hook, people are fascinated by the inner workings of the CIA. That is also, draws people in. Already they're just interested. And when you show them this document, and the fact that there are some brilliant quotes, as Chris points out, it says, as a result of Uri Geller's success in this experimental period, we consider that he has demonstrated his paranormal perceptual ability in a convincing and unambiguous manner. He got him. And that makes, it's just, fascinating, and not just for magicians. So don't just think, oh, because we all like a little bit of mentalism, we're in it. This draws in all of the general public. Uri is a fascinating character, and this is a fascinating document in its own right. And you really want to spend some time drawing people in with this document. You can go through it, you can point out little things, well worth reading actually in its own right. And these are some of the pictures that Uri drew to duplicate what the CIA agents were drawing. And also they were drawing them basically from a book, not an Oxford dictionary, a college dictionary, and they would find a word that they could easily draw and then draw it. So it was all completely random. And that is the test that you suggest to your participant that you're going to recreate. And you're going to recreate it using the original drawings from here. So they shield it in this document pouch. They lift up, they find a picture, and you can then duplicate it. The method is as old as the hills. It's from the early 1900s. There's nothing new about the method apart from its construction. So this document, which is now hidden in plain sight, normally this method is used in something that's sort of illogical to use. It's just sort of introduced purely as part of the method. There's no other reason for it really being there, and it's often discarded quickly, and you kind of hope that your audience forget that it was ever in play right from the start. Chris has painted it red and stuck it there and made it really the star of the show, which hides it even better and really does give it a logic. It is also brilliantly constructed, so there's very little audience management involved, if any. The prop itself is super strong. This is printed on sort of magazine paper, sort of top flight magazine paper, so it's not your standard A4 printer paper by any means. It is a really top quality paper. You do want to highlight things. Chris talks about ways of personalizing this when you first get it, which is probably best that you do yourself. It's all handmade. It is a really good working prop that is surefire and is beautiful and will last the test of time as well, which is also really useful. And these are imported from America as well, so they are, you know, sort of something similar that perhaps the CIA would use. It's all really well thought out to look as legit as a document as it is. In fact, the document itself is real. It's just this isn't you know, a genuine copy from the CIA. It's one Chris has had facsimiled, as it were. So you will be familiar with the method, but Chris is teaching of it, and how to do a drawing duplication is fascinating and a masterclass and worth its weight in gold. But Chris kindly at the start offers a little quick start guide for those of you who've picked it up, figured out the method and just want to run straight through it. Chris gives you a little 2-minute guide. He doesn't recommend that that's all you do. He does recommend you go and watch the rest of the tutorial, and I do too, because there are lots and lots of tips and lots and lots of things that Chris have thought about that just make this so much better, because this really isn't a quick inconsequential trick. You can really present this with a bit of performance. It is drama, it is mystery, it is something that you can really play on people's minds. The tutorial is actually 75 minutes long, and it starts with Chris sort of the story of how this came about, and the history of it, and also how it is made, how it's constructed, and its development. I find that stuff really interesting, but that is probably the first 20 minutes or so that you can skip if you're really impatient. And then you're on to the gold, where Chris teaches you how to introduce the document, which you may not think is important, but he's got some interesting psychological ideas of how you sort of distanced it from yourself, and how it's just something that's come into your possession, which removes the idea that this is something that may well have been created just for the trick. And then he talks about how to display the document. And what's fascinating is that normally this method or you know, things similar to this that are used, they are simply a means to an end, and actually displaying them is sort of a little bit of boring dead time. Whereas with this, you really want people to look at it closely, and it's great and fascinating, and there's just lots and lots of things to pick out in it and draw them in. Draw, pardon the pun. So it makes it just a wonderful idea for this principle. And also the fact that a lot of the pages, most of the pages are the images that were drawn, but some also have some text about the results that were found and so on. And these little bits come into play later psychologically to make the effect even more powerful. And at the end of the tutorial, something I feel Chris is making into a bit of a trend is a bonus section where he runs through a couple of other possible routine ideas, an idea with 2 people, and a sort of Hoy's tossed out deck idea. But you may well come up with your own, because the principle is well known, and you might have things that will fit into. The big thing is don't rush this trick. For me, it is, like I say, it is something that you want to linger into someone's memory. You really want to take them back, possibly into the 80s when these tests were being done, and really create the atmosphere and build that hook and get them connected to what genuinely happened with Uri Geller and the CIA. This is 100% a trick and a prop for the professional. Even if you're doing a stage show to a large audience, this is fascinating stuff, and it will hold an audience's attention. For the everyday hobbyist, this is the sort of thing you can just introduce when your friends come round, or have it on your desk. These are ideas that Chris suggests as well. Just have it about in your house, maybe just have it on the coffee table until someone mentions it, and then you can do this trick almost as if you're thinking of doing it impromptu. So it's a really fun thing to have around your house or boat. But would I take it? I'm not sure I would take it down the pub to show mates, but there's no reason why you couldn't. You could just turn up and go, look, I've just received this. This is what it is. And then perform it. And actually, the more you carry it around, the more you get battered, perhaps the more authentic it will look as something from the CIA and those tests that long ago. I think it is one of the most impactful jury duplications you can do, just because everything has a reason. The idea of recreating the tests that the CIA did on Geller is just a terrific hook and justifies absolutely everything that you do with the procedure. It is very easy to do method wise, but do watch the whole tutorial so that you learn all of the tips, all of the performance ideas, and really make it as good as it deserves to be. That is Declassified by Christopher Rawlins, £40. Next up, we have Holy Wood by Hanson Chien. I know this isn't new, but I've recently got some Hanson Chien stuff in, and I opened this up, and boy, was I amazed. It is a take on the classic Matchbox Penetration by Coryllas block in the early 90s, where a brass block was a needle was put through a matchbox and you tipped out a brass block. It was done by Jamie D. Grant with Industrial Revelation, that had a big steel block inside a matchbox, inside a card box. Hanson has decided to do it with a block of wood. And boy, I've handed this out, and this is so inspectable, so perfect. It is, there's just nothing to see there. There's no clue, no hint, nothing. It is incredibly well designed. And the plot is very similar to Industrial Revelation, but you get some other stuff in here. So let me just take this out. What is nice is you get some sandpaper. If you need to, do a little bit of maintenance on the block, you get some sandpaper as well. You've also got another little gimmick in here that I'll talk about later. And you get the card cases with the slit already in. So if you're not familiar with the effect, you show a deck of cards and the box has a slit in it. You then take out a card from the deck and you push it through the box, through the cards, and put it out the other side. And you then tip out this wooden block from the box. There's no doubting it's a great effect. People are still using the Matchbox Penetration, so people are still using Industrial Revelation. This lacks the dropping weight of both of those tricks. This is much lighter than the brass block or the steel block that is used in those two tricks, but it is still a solid piece of wood, and you might like the fact that it's not going to wear a hole in your trousers, or do you need a special carrier to lunk around a heavy block of steel. And a deception impossibility is, in theory, exactly the same. what I really like is on the tutorial. The tutorial is really brilliantly thorough. It's with Hanson Chien, and he goes into great detail about how to set this up, how to you can recreate these boxes if you want, how to make them again. But it's great that these are included to get you going right from the start, and you can see exactly what you're aiming for when you try and make a new one, and also how to look after the gimmick, how to care for it. If anything goes wrong, you got a little bit of sandpaper. That is all great stuff. But the big thing for me is all the effects before this. You are sticking something through a box, and that in itself isn't remarkable. So it's sort of a backwards trick. You're putting something through a box, and as far as the audience are concerned, that box could be empty anyway. That is not amazing in itself. Only when you drop out the metal block does it become an effect. With this, he teaches a way of showing the deck of cards inside the box beforehand, and then having it morph into the wooden box, into the wooden block, and that really does add something for me. So it changes. It's not so much just a penetration effect. It is a morphing of a deck of cards into the block of wood. And the choreography justifies all of the subtle displays without really having to point out or ram home that there's a deck of cards in the box. It's all done with a little gimmick that's very similar to Paul Harris's Vanishing Deck. And yeah, the idea is that you show a deck of cards, you pull out a couple of cards from the box, they can see that there's a deck of cards in there, and you then push it through. For me, that really helps with the presentation, and they get two effects for the price of one. They get the cards going through a deck of cards, which in itself is impossible, and then in their own hands, the cards turn into the wooden block. It also distances the penetration from this block, so this is not going to get as scrutinized as heavily as with previous incarnations of this trick. It's a really nice, well thought out, complete product. This is as deceptive as anything you can possibly get. It looks perfect. The fact that you've got the Vanishing Deck gimmick included is great. The fact you've got the boxes already made up is great. And that really helps, because it's not cheap, but it is one of those effects that will long last in your participants' minds. It is Hollywood by Hanson Chien. And next up we have Tricolor by Simon Lipkin and the 1914. This is Simon Lipkin's take on Colour Match, which was first published by Tony and Verdi, and Tony created a lot of electronical magical effects back gosh, in the 60s. I think it was when he was really popular, and I think his book was published in the 90s. Murphy's bought the rights to all of his stuff, and so Colour Match became popular again fairly recently, with them producing it. And also Craig Filicetti has some takes on it as well. This doesn't require any electronics. Those effects are usually bigger stage effects, and they're very expensive. Simon has taken all the electronics away and made it into a walk around effect, or a close-up mentalism effect, which, let's face it, is where most of us perform. The main effect is that you've got 3 Sharpie markers, each with black lids on. But when the lids are removed, you reveal that they are all actually different colours: red, green and blue. You put the lids back on, and your participant can shuffle them up and mix them at will, and they select one. You then bring out an envelope and you give them a piece of paper, and on that piece of paper are 3 drawings numbered 1, 2 and 3. They draw in picture number 1 with the colour of the pen that they've got. They then pick up another pen and colour in picture number 2. They pick up another pen and colour in picture number 3. You then draw their attention to the envelope that's been on the table the entire time, from which you remove a prediction that shows that you have divined what colour they will draw in which pictures. Now, that colour match effect is absolutely great, and it's really easy to do, and the secret is diabolically clever. I can't really show you what you get inside here, I can't really show you the props, but you do get the 3 Sharpie colours. So you do get the 3 Sharpies. You're absolutely ready to go. Everything is in this box. You can go straight away, which is great. So you've got the 3 coloured Sharpies. You've got some billets for you to write your predictions on and so on. And you've got some envelopes as well with which you put in your predictions. And you also have some gimmicks. Now, the marking system is what is so clever. It doesn't just sort of tell you which pen's the odd one out, which are ways of doing that. Some people like to line up the caps with the swirl of the S and all of that, so you can know which one has had the cap removed. All of those ideas. This one is visual. It identifies each specific pen, and it can be done at a very quick glance. It is genius. When you know the secret, you can see it. If you don't know the secret, they're probably never going to find it unless they take the pens home with them. And the system just allows you to be really free and casual. So you don't have to worry about audience management really at all. Colour match is traditionally done with 5 pens, for no good reason, really. Probably just how the first one was written up, and to give the idea of greater odds. Simon's reduced the number of pens, and that makes a lot of sense. I don't think it reduces the power because of the participants' complete free will of the choice. Makes it so random that it's impossible to predict. Even they don't know what colour they're selecting, so how can you? And also it speeds it up a little bit, gets rid of all of the dead time. And if you're doing walk around as well, even if you're doing it with one person, they don't want to be drawing in a picture for that long. They've got an idea of the plot already. With 3 people, you can do it very quickly in the hands around. It's all much more fun, much more contained, a little more concise and punchy. I also like having the numbered pictures because it gets away from the way the magician normally arbitrarily names a part of the picture to draw in once your pen has selected. This way it's already defined which picture you're drawing in and which pen you've chosen, which is very smart and more baffling. If you did want to do it in the classic style of having just one picture, there's no reason why you can't number the elements of the picture if you wish. The way the prediction envelope is introduced at the start, but its attention isn't drawn to, is really smart and really clever. It allows it to be in play seemingly right from the very start. It could be in someone's possession. If you're not using a table, you can ask someone to simply hold it. And also, as Simon says, he doesn't draw attention to the fact that there's a prediction out there, because that gives away what is gonna happen. And it's always a little bit nicer if the audience aren't sure where this is going straight away. Too often, I think, in Magic, especially when a card's been picked, they know it's going to be found. So there's no real surprise when it happens. And there are lots of subtleties throughout the tutorial that Simon dwells on. He just sort of throws them in, but they're really worth picking up on. Simon comes from an acting background as well, and he knows a bit about theatre and performance and scripting and choreography and drama. And that is really important when you're performing mentalism. So there's a lot of useful tips. I'm not sure Simon's always aware that he's dropping them in. Being able to identify pens opens up a plethora of effects, and the rest of the tutorial has some real doozies on it. The first one is free will, which is obviously based on the old free will effect, where a participant puts the pens in a different pocket. You then bring out a coloured cap and you ask them to bring out a pen from a specific pocket. They take off the black lid and it matches the colour lid that you've got, and that goes on for all of the pens. It's a really funny routine, and obviously you can come up with a plot as to why they've got the wrong caps on, and finding the right pen and losing pens, all of that sort of stuff. It's really quite a great little routine, and a lot of fun to perform. Then have a sort of drawing duplication idea. This is probably the one that doesn't necessarily need these gimmicks. It's got a great Louis Laval peak taught on it, but the sort of colour divination bit is sort of secondary. Adds a little bit to the routine. And then you have Chienelope, I think it's called, which is like a chairless chair test, walk around prediction, where everyone picks an envelope, picks a coloured pen and picks a picture, and they all match at the end. That is a real killer routine if you've got time to perform it. I think the routines on here, although 3 of them are brilliant, this is just the tip of the iceberg of what you can do with this utility device. And also you can mix it up. It's so good to have something that you can go around and you can do color match for one people, duplication for another, freewheel for another group, do the chair test when you've got a big table. Absolutely terrific. It also doesn't take up much pocket space. Once you know the method, it is really easy, and Simon's teaching, like I say, is great, and his little dabbles into the psychology of recapping the impossibility of the effect, and removing possible methods that your audience might be thinking of right from the start, is clever. It's obviously not as hands-off as the electronic versions. That is the only downside, but with the choreography and the handling, it all makes sense. And like I say, it is simply a very quick glance is all you need, and then you don't have to worry about batteries recharging, making sure everything's on, being able to switch pens. These are just ordinary Sharpies. You can just grab them and go. The only slight rub is the price. It's $50.99, and you know, sometimes the simple is the best, but sometimes it's quite hard to justify the price, even though what you can do with it is amazing. So don't overlook the power of these effects, what you can do with this, and don't look at just what's in the box necessarily. Maybe they could have skimped a little bit more on the box, but you know, it's nice, isn't it, to receive something that looks great. They didn't have to include the pens, for example, but then you wouldn't be able to do it straight out of the box straight away. That is Tricolor by Simon Lipkin, $50.99. Next up, we've got Crazy Sam's Minds. I've been looking forward to getting this in for so long, since the first day at Blackpool. No, the day before Blackpool started on the Thursday morning. I was walking past Hanson Jen's stand. I saw Sam, who I knew for Crazy Sam's handcuffs, and he had a pack of crisps, and he did Crazy Sam's Minds on me. I didn't know what was coming. I picked up a crisp from an open pack of crisps on the table, free choice. I put it on the palm of my hand, and I made a little flicky with my finger, and the crisp just shattered. I had no idea. I didn't see it coming. I didn't know the method. I was just full of joy. It is absolutely wonderful. It sold out in the first day. I think it sold out in the first morning. It sold out incredibly quickly. I think a lot of people might have been slightly bemused by the method and what you actually get inside here, but you get a brilliant effect. And it's not just the Pringle. You can make the glasses hop into your hand. You can have banknotes fly off your hand. You can really sort of move various things. In fact, Sam teaches ways of vanishing pieces of tissue paper and other things like that. And it is a lot of fun to play with. So Sam actually does a free phase routine doing all of those things and ending with the crisp shattering on the palm. To do that, you need to be able to sort of do a quick setup of it on the fly under misdirection, and that takes a little bit of practice. Is that sort of audience management, a little bit of misdirection, and the speed of the setup. At the moment, I am at the level of just doing the crisp on the hand. The picking the crisp out of the packet and everything else gives plenty of misdirection for the setup, and I know I've got it right, which you know, haven't quite got the feel for it, but I'm practicing it all of the time. It is a lot of fun. You can do it absolutely anywhere. Your fingers will get sore after a while if you practice non-stop, like I have been, but the setup is really easy, and the tutorial is very clear. There is a knack to doing some of the tricks with the glasses into your hand and so on. That will take a lot more practice than just snapping the potato chip. But I was really pleasantly surprised with just how easy doing that potato chip effect is, and just what a buzz it is to perform. It is a great everyday carry as well. Literally, you've just got this with you pretty much most of the time, and you forget you've got it with you, and you can do as soon as there's anything that you think you might be able to move, a pound note from your wallet or whatever. You can do it and amaze people. And I think one of the most novel impromptu effects you can do. Like I say, when Sam performed this on me, I had no idea what was going on. And that just made it all the more amazing. And you have to chuckle. It is such a sort of funny, quirky trick. The people will just be talking about it and laughing. It is one of the most enjoyable things to have performed on you that I've come across in a long time. I can't actually show you what's in here. I'm keeping a secret, even if other people aren't. But you get about 50 of them, and I've got through one so far. So they'll last you a fair amount of time. You'll have to do your own research as to where to get the exact duplicates from. But I'm sure with a bit of trial and error, you'll be fine. And Sam does run through a fair bit of hand positioning and so on to make it even more deceptive. I really, really like how such a simple idea has been developed into some wonderful, wonderful, engaging, amusing magic. That is Crazy Sam's Minds, $24.99.
He shouldn't have jumped. The show's not that bad.
And that's it for this week's show, I'm afraid. I hope you've enjoyed it. Go and put the kettle on, sit back and have another cup of tea before grabbing some magic and going out and having a lot of fun with the best hobby in the world. Goodbye.